When a new 3D Mario game releases, it's always a big deal. These titles are often highly regarded as some of the best video games ever made. Super Mario 64 is praised for practically inventing the 3D platformer genre. Galaxy is loved for its spectacular music and equally incredible atmosphere and gameplay. 3D World is loved for its creativity, and Odyssey is loved for its almost perfect controls and open-ended level design. But there's one 3D Mario game that, despite being praised and loved just as much as the others by a lot of critics, is a bit of a controversial topic among Mario fans. That game is none other than the one and only Super Mario Sunshine. This game has always stood out to me, and today I want to take a deep dive into it and explore the many aspects of it. My name is Mariomikester, and welcome to a Super Mario Sunshine retrospective. In this video, I want to finally try and answer the question that has plagued my and so many others' minds for so long. Is Super Mario Sunshine bad? Released on August 26, 2002 here in North America, Super Mario Sunshine is the second entry in the 3D Mario series, but initially was not supposed to be. You see, after the immense success of Super Mario 64 on the N64, being the best-selling game on the system by a pretty decent margin, a sequel to the game was a no-brainer to Nintendo. At first, series director Shigeru Miyamoto planned to have the game developed for the 64DD, an add-on for the N64 that connected to the bottom of the system and allowed the console to read floppy disks that could hold significantly more storage on them than N64 cartridges could. But due to the failure and subsequent discontinuation of the add-on, development for the game was put on hold. And for the next few years, Miyamoto would continue to reassure fans that a sequel to Super Mario 64 was coming, just not on the N64. But as time went on and the launch of their upcoming console, the GameCube, drew closer, Nintendo became more and more doubtful of Miyamoto's Super Mario 64 sequel. So in a last-ditch effort to have a 3D Mario game release in the next few years, in late 2000, Nintendo very hastily began development on what would eventually, over an incredibly short development period of around 18 months, become Super Mario Sunshine.
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
Before I talk about the game itself, I think it's pretty important to cover the opening plot of the game, as Sunshine is the very first 3D Mario game to attempt to have a fully fleshed out narrative. The game introduces its plots throughout its various opening cutscenes. The first cutscene showcases Mario, Peach, and a brand new character Toadsworth traveling through the air in a plane. Aboard this plane, the three watch a video that shows off the tropical island they're traveling to, Isle Delfino. While watching this video, Peach seems to notice an odd shadowy figure in the background of one of the shots. Peach tries to point this out to Mario and Toadsworth, but they are gone. After a rough landing, the player gets to take control of Mario and get a feel for how he moves around and controls in the game. During this brief period of being able to move around with Mario, you also get a bit of time to get acquainted with his new companion Flood, which you have to use in order to defeat this piranha made out of what Toad can only describe as
Icky paint like goop.
After the piranha's defeat, Mario is arrested and put on trial for defacing and polluting Isle Delfino with the previously mentioned icky paint-like goop. Mario's unable to defend himself in court due to whatever kind of legal system they got going on in Isle Delfino, and is tasked with cleaning up the entire island before he can leave. Almost immediately after beginning his cleanup, Mario comes face to face with the shadowy figure that Peach saw in the video. This shadowy figure, very appropriately named Shadow Mario, jumps down and grabs Peach. This prompts Mario to chase after him, spraying him with water to try and defeat him. And after being bested by Mario and his new friend Flood, Shadow Mario drops Peach and retreats by making a portal on this giant Pianta statue. Heading into this portal leads to the very first level of the game, Bianco Hills. I absolutely love this opening for so many different reasons. I mean, first off, the whole plot revolving around Mario going to a tropical island and getting framed for crimes he obviously didn't commit, and his goal being to clear his name, is such a breath of fresh air from the usual, oh, Peach is kidnapped and you gotta save her trope we're so used to. And yeah, I know she does get kidnapped later, but at least there's a build up to it. The full voice acting present in the cutscenes here are hilarious. I don't know if it was intentional to have the voice acting be this funny.
Behold this sketch of the perpetrator based on eyewitness descriptions. The truth is obvious. The guilty party sits among us.
But it absolutely lends to the more silly and laid-back tone Sunshine has. Finally, the way the game introduces the controls to the player is absolutely genius. From the very moment you start controlling Mario on the airstrip, there's a threat present. That being the goop. This immediately has the player engaged and gets them right into the action. The next time you gain control of Mario is during your chase with Shadow Mario. During this chase, the player has only the basic knowledge of Mario's controls, but through being forced to chase Shadow Mario, they will most likely be able to grasp the controls even quicker. And it's not like this chase is unfair or anything. If you don't move quick enough, Shadow Mario does stop and wait for you. But it's the illusion of this chase being more than what it is that will help players. The whole opening sequence is an amazing way to engage players at the start without being too overwhelming. Moving on from the opening, we have the incredible hub world that is Delfino Plaza. I have, and I am not even joking when I say this, spent hours just running around this place over the years. There's just so much to do here. I mean, you got the various amount of secret shines hidden all about, the 20 blue coins spread around, and the many NPCs to talk to that have some great dialogue. What I always loved about this place, though, was its secrets. I mean, with the amount of shines and blue coins you find here, Delfino Plaza is practically its own entire level. Some of the shines here are quite simple, like this one where you just spray flood in the sand, but others get a bit more interesting. For example, you have these 2 shines that you're awarded by winning this crate minigame twice, this one that involves cleaning these 2 bell towers, another that has you finding and spraying a golden bird, one that requires bashing into this gate with the turbo nozzle to reveal a hidden shine inside, and so many more. Along with the shines and secrets, the music of Delfino Plaza is just so good. I could listen to it for hours. Delfino Plaza is an almost perfect hub world, and is up there with Peach's Castle and the Comet Observatory as one of my favorite video game hub worlds. But even years after finding and collecting all its secrets and goodies, there's one thing that still kept me running and jumping around this place for hours. The movement. Super Mario Sunshine's movement is practically flawless. I'd say the only 3D Mario that's been able to one-up it has been Odyssey. But that's only because Odyssey expanded upon and refined what made Mario's movement so amazing in this game. The introduction of the spin and the changes to the dive were such great additions to Mario's moveset. The controls here are tight and precise. I rarely felt like a mistake I made was the fault of the game's movement. The introduction of Flood only adds to what makes the movement so fun here as well. The one thing I always felt was missing from 64 was a mid-air correction tool you see in every other 3D Mario game. Flood's hover nozzle is a perfect mid-air correction tool that always saves me when I make a mistake in my inputs. Along with that, the hover nozzle also just makes it that much more enjoyable to pull off crazy tricks and skips that assist in completing shines faster. The one thing I always see people complaining about though in regards to Sunshine's movement is the lack of the long jump. But I mean, with Flood's hover nozzle, there is literally no need for a long jump, as the hover nozzle can cover much more distance than that of the long jump. There's only one place I can think of in the game that would benefit from Mario having a long jump, and that's in the secret stages. In every single main level of Super Mario Sunshine, there is at least one secret stage that the player has to complete in order to beat the game. Upon entering one of the many secret stages, Flood will be taken away from you by Shadow Mario, forcing you to platform through the entirety of the stage without having the ability to hover through the air with ease. The secret stages are one of my absolute favorite parts of the game. Sometimes. I love how these stages force players to get more familiar with Mario's other moves, rather than just sticking with the hover nozzle and Mario's basic moves like the triple jump and wall jump. The secret stages are what taught me just how powerful moves like the spin and dive were. And because of that, I started using these moves more outside of the secret stages. And in turn, I was able to better grasp and understand the complexity of Mario's moveset. These secret stages aren't perfect though. Some of them tend to be designed in a more unfair way. I'm looking at you, Chuckster Stage. But overall, the majority of them are designed pretty fairly, and I've always looked forward to these stages when I replay the game. Outside of the secret stages though, we have the actual stages of the game, of which there are 7. These 7 stages include Bianco Hills, Rico Harbor, Gelato Beach, Pina Park, Serena Beach, Noki Bay, and Pianta Village. Now the decrease from Mario 64's 15 stages to Sunshine's 7 stages may seem like a big downgrade, but it's actually not. The 7 main stages of Sunshine have so much to offer in them. For starters, where Super Mario 64 has 7 stars in each stage, Sunshine has 10 in each of its stages. Furthermore, Sunshine's stages are much larger than 64's, and because of that are, in some ways, more fun to explore. By saying all this, I'm not at all trying to say Sunshine is better than 64 in any way. Rather that Sunshine is often referred to as a major downgrade to 64 in terms of levels, when that actually isn't entirely the case. One of the things I love most about Sunshine's stages, though, is their theming. Since all of Sunshine's levels take place on Isle Delfino, a tropical island, all of them are designed and built around this tropical summer theme. A lot of people argue that this theme being consistent throughout the entire game is to Sunshine's detriment, and that it gets repetitive and boring, but I would argue that that is absolutely not the case. The consistent theming is immersive. It makes the island more believable and real. I mean, you got locations like Gelato Beach, a sun-soaked beach with a beautiful coral reef. Rico Harbor, a rich trading port filled with boats and cranes that carry around goods. Pina Park, a giant amusement park found on an island just off the coast of Isle Delfino that's full of so many different attractions for guests to ride on. All of these locations feel like actual places that tourists would want to travel to in real life. But by far the biggest strength of Mario Sunshine's stages, and the main thing that makes them so immersive in the first place, is their connectivity. By connectivity, I mean how, in the simplest sense, every single level in the game is connected. I already mentioned how every one takes place on a different part of Isle Delfino, but what I didn't mention is that, in almost every single level, you can see other locations and stages far off in the distance. For example, from Bianco Hills, you can spot places like Delfino Plaza, Rico Harbor, and Pina Park far off in the distance. And likewise, from Pina Park, you can see all those previously mentioned locations, plus Serena Beach and Gelato Beach. I always loved heading to different stages in the game and seeing what landmarks I could spot far off in the distance, and seeing if I could get a new perspective on these places, because it was just another way to get immersed in the wonder of Isle Delfino. If Nintendo for whatever reason ever decides to remake Super Mario Sunshine or return to Isle Delfino, I would love for it to be completely open world. Just imagine instead of just being able to see locations in the distance, you could just go there, without having to jump into portals or return to a hub world. It would be amazing. But despite all the great things I've praised Sunshine for, the game is absolutely not without its fair share of flaws. I mean, it's pretty well known at this point that Super Mario Sunshine was rushed out to try and save the GameCube after its rocky launch, as evident by its extremely short development period of around 18 months. So with this short development period, there was bound to be some corners cut in some aspects. For starters, you have the fact that, in order to unlock the final stage, Corona Mountain, and be able to complete the game, the player has to collect the first 7 shines in each main level. This essentially means that regardless of if you get stuck on a shine or find it annoying, if it's on episode 1 through 7 of a level, you have to complete it. The plot reason for this is because the 7th shine of each stage is a Shadow Mario chase, and in order to get Shadow Mario to flee to Corona Mountain and unlock it, he has to be defeated in every single stage. Regardless of the plot reasons for it though, this 7 shine requirement is so annoying. In 64, if you found a star too hard or too cryptic, you could just skip it. I mean, of the 120 stars in the game, you only needed 70 to unlock the final Bowser level. So why couldn't Sunshine do something similar to this? There were so many instances on my first playthrough of the game where I just didn't want to do a certain shine. But if I wanted to move on and make any sort of progress in the game, I would have to do it. Of all the required shines in the game though, no one was more infuriating than Gelato Beach's episode 4 shine, The Sandbird is Born. The Sandbird shine is infamous for its unfair design and overall just frustrating nature. The mission sees the player riding on top of a group of flying blocks of sand in the shape of a bird. On the bird lay 7 red coins that the player must collect. with the 8th and final red coin sat at the top of the tower the sandbird is flying around. Doesn't seem too bad, right? Wrong. As the sandbird starts to get closer and closer to the top of the tower, for some godforsaken reason, this thing decides to rotate itself 90 degrees to the side. While it's turning, the player has to quickly adjust themselves to be on a part of the sandbird that will be safe. But this is difficult because of how slippery and clunky the sand is, and leads to you falling off incredibly easily. And while the sandbird is an annoying required shine, there are many other shines that aren't required to beat the game, but are just as, and in some cases, even more annoying than the sandbird. I mean, you got shines like the infamous pachinko machine that will fling you wherever it wants, the watermelon shine on Gelato Beach that'll make you despise the cataquacks, and finally, the lily pad ride. The other main annoying aspect of Sunshine is its blue coins. Spread throughout every main stage of the game are 30 blue coins for the player to collect. These blue coins are scattered across different episodes of levels, and upon collecting 10 of them, you're able to turn them into this house in Rico Harbor to net yourself a shine. Because a pretty big amount of them are really cryptic, it's incredibly difficult to track down all 240 of them without a guide. And even with the help of a guide, finding them will take hours. Sunshine's annoying aspects really hold back the game in a lot of ways. There are so many areas in this game that are very clearly rushed, and it honestly hurts to see all the missed potential in some of these areas. Moving on, the last main thing I want to talk about here is the final level and boss fight of the game. After defeating Shadow Mario in all 7 main levels, he quickly flees away to the top of Corona Mountain where he's keeping Peach, who he kidnaps once the player makes their way to Peanut Park, where he also reveals his true identity as Bowser Jr., a brand new character introduced in Sunshine. Upon making your way into Corona Mountain, you're met with a linear platforming gauntlet that you have to make your way through in order to reach the top. There are 3 main sections to Corona Mountain. The first sees you do some simple platforming across fiery and spiky blocks. The next sees you guiding a boat across a lava lake whilst trying to avoid crashing into obstacles. And the final section sees you using the rocket nozzle to propel yourself, literally, into the clouds. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not, but I actually enjoy Corona Mountain as a final level. I always loved guiding the boat through the lava lake because I've always thought it was a really cool use of the spray nozzle. I have heard some criticism towards this lava lake section, as some believe it to be just as finicky and clunky as guiding the lily pad in the lily pad ride, but honestly I'd have to disagree. The lava lake section and just boat controls in general are much more forgiving than the torture that is the lily pad stage. Moving past that though, we have the final boss battle of Sunshine, where the one and only Bowser makes his first appearance in the game, and he talks.
The water's great, hey Junior?
Sure is, Papa. Mario! You again? Don't you ever give up?
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
I think they should get Jack Black to recite Bowser's lines here. It would be legendary. This final Bowser fight involves destroying the 5 large marked X's surrounding Bowser's, hot tub. In order to do this, the player must use the rocket nozzle to propel Mario high enough into the air so that he can perform an extra powerful ground pound that will be able to destroy the X's. This final fight is fine. It just feels like there could have been so much more to it. I mean, just look at the Mecha Bowser fight in Peanut Park. This fight is hands down one of the coolest fights in a 3D Mario game. You're on a roller coaster and you gotta shoot missiles at this giant robot Bowser while it shoots its own missiles at you and breathes fire. It's just full of the creativity and personality I associate this game with. Hitting that final X and watching as Bowser's bathtub flips over and sends everyone free falling into the clouds isn't as satisfying as other 3D Mario final bosses, but definitely still a lot of fun. Super Mario Sunshine is not as polished as other 3D Mario games. There are so many aspects of this game that just feel rushed and thrown together. And whether it be some of the more frustrating shines like the pachinko machine or lily pad level, the cryptic blue coins that'll take you hours to find, or the 7 shine requirement each stage has that completely abandons Mario 64's idea of being able to skip missions you don't like, the game also has so many redeeming qualities. For one, the connectivity of all the levels make Isle Delfino feel like a real place. The locations of these levels are consistent throughout every stage. On a first playthrough, it even lets the player take a peek into what's next and what other places they'll be exploring. The movement is almost perfect. There are very few Mario games that have me feeling as in control as I do in Sunshine. Everything feels so buttery smooth and precise. It feels like a lot of time was spent refining Mario's moveset to complement the design of the levels. Finally, Super Mario Sunshine, for the most part, is incredibly creative with its level design, theming, and overall atmosphere. I often find myself getting lost in the wonder of levels like Rico Harbor and Pina Park, and wish they were real places I could travel to. Over the past few years since my first time completing Sunshine, every single year I've learned to love the game more and more. I've accepted that the game has its flaws and will never be perfect, but I've also grown to appreciate the good aspects of it much more. So to answer the question posed at the very beginning of this video, is Super Mario Sunshine bad? Personally, no. Over the course of making this video, I realized that I really like the game, despite its flaws. But I can absolutely understand others feeling differently. So please, let me know in the comments what you think about Super Mario Sunshine, and if you truly believe the game is bad or not.